but I somehow can't see the chat. I'm just quickly having a look and see if the stream is actually up on my Network Bird Labs channel now. It should be. I can see I'm back on Twitch, which is good. There we go. The title's wrong though. Let me see if I can just update the title from YouTube Studio. Hopefully I can. Yeah, this is so funky. It's so weird when you're trying to multi-stream on multiple channels. The chat is also not working for Restream. Hang on, let me just... All right, third time's lucky. I think this should be sorted out now. Let me see the YouTube stream. All right, it seems to be streaming. All right, so sorry if you heard me through. Oh, I actually think I've disabled the desktop audio through OBS. So you guys shouldn't hear any desktop audio, which is nice because now I can just blast some music and then do my labbing. Let me just close the Twitch window since I don't really need that to do my lab. Just wanted to make sure the stream's actually up and running. So let's have a quick look, see, just get some music on. There we go, that's quite nice. All right, cool. Everything looks to be good now, so I can get into my lab session. So I've got EvenG already open. I had to restart my machine, so that has put a slight hamper on some of the stuff since I have to restart all of the labs again, which is unfortunate. So let's just log in and see what's going on. Hello. So last place I was at was new MikroTik stuff. I've also downloaded the new version 7.18 stable build, although I don't really think it differs much from the release candidate build, to be honest. So I'm not sure if I really just want to rebuild this section of the lab. I'll probably just add one new node having version 7.18 stable on it and see if there's anything big that's changed. I don't think anything's changed. I think it's like literally the same thing. It's just you know, the stable build. MikroTik just gave it the official sticker to say it's stable. What can I call this? Maybe we can make this like a P2 or something. And then I could maybe also just connect these to the provider edges, because that is fairly normal for redundancy. There we go. Just duplicate these so that we can just throw some IPs around, because I love throwing IPs around. Maybe I can make this a second route reflector as well. Or maybe I should make that like a Juniper, but no, let's not do that yet. I just want to see what's new on that device. And while I'm doing that, let's actually just start up the Juniper from the beginning so it can do its booting process, since that bad boy takes like 10 minutes to get started. Not really, it's more like 2 minutes, well, 5 minutes to be honest. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe I'm not lying. Juniper is really special when it comes to how long it takes to boot up. Because I do think these virtual machines, when I boot them like this, it's literally rebuilding that disk almost. Because it looks like a reinstall to me when it's doing this stuff. Alright, while that happens, let's do something fun quickly. Let's just enable ROM on all of these devices. I'm gonna go admin admin blank. Tool Ramon set enable. Yes. Just add it for all my devices. Just let me know if you can hear the audio for the desktop or not, because I'm listening to some music. I just want to make sure it's not playing on the stream, so because I don't want to get those weird copyright stuff happen. Let's see, tool enable, set enabled, yes. Nice, nice. So it's just me. Tool Ramon set enabled, yes. And then the last one. No. Ramon set enabled, yes. System identity set name P2. So I should just be able to bring on Winbox and find my devices. So that should just be admin blank. Connect to Ramon. And there's our P2. Awesome. So that's still fairly normal. What do we see? I actually think it's worthwhile to just have a look at the changelog, to be honest. I mean, even though we're on the stream, microtik.com. Software. Let's see, we've got RC, or we've got 718 changelog. So Wi-Fi, I'm not too perturbed about. BGP, certain affinity options not working properly. Interesting. I'm not sure what wasn't working properly. Improved system stability when printing BGP advertisements. So I'm not sure if that means like BGP was crashing whenever you printed it. Make no advertise, no export, no peer communities work. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know, that wasn't working. We got some bonding, a lot of bridging, which is what I think some people mentioned with the VXLAN that was getting improved. Bandwidth test, some CHR, which is applicable to us since I'm using CHR. Cloud, back to home files. Back to home files, interesting. I'll have to check that out on my actual AX3. See what that done or does, apologies. Cloud, back to home, bunch of console stuff, container stuff. Add default registry as lscr.io. What is that? Didn't it used to be Docker Hub? What is this? Pardon my ignorance. Let me just quickly grab this here. See what is this? Google that. Linux server IO. All right. It's pretty cool. It's been open for a long time as well. Never used it. All right, that's quite cool. So I don't run my own ASN as a hobby. Although I do know that Daryl Swear does, or used to, I don't know. I think he's trying to get it done again, but no, I don't have my own ASN as a fun hobby. I just lab inside Eve with private networks or make-believe networks. Other than that, yeah. Then provided registry 2 with Docker soon restricting. That's probably why MikroTik did that with that 10 downloads per hour. I don't even know, because I haven't done a lot of container things recently. Quite honestly, over the last year, I've barely touched containerization. So it's pretty interesting to see. Some DHCP stuff, some disk stuff, which I'm sure goes hand in hand with their new mega server thing they want to bring out. Ethernet. Nothing too fancy. Firewall. Hardware acceleration support for hex refresh. That sounds interesting. Layer 3 hardware offloading. Oh, this is the VXLAN stuff. LTE. OSPF fixed. DN bit not being set. Ooh, that sounds like a nice one. OpenVPN, Triple P. Added IP route check tool. What's that? IP route check tool. Let me just jump back on Eve. IP route check tool. Admin. IP route check. So what? Can you put in a destination to like 8888 and then it will tell you, oh, okay, that's. I think that's just like what is it, WatchGuard or Watchdog or whatever was doing as well, kind of. Kind of makes sense. Where's my browser window? Some SFP fixes, support fixes, switch fixes, VXLAN. Okay. Webfig I'm not too bothered about. Wi-Fi, I need to reduce some stuff on Wi-Fi because there's a lot of things people want to know about Wi-Fi with the new MikroTik. Not really that it's new, it's just that it looks a bit different on the new Winbox and on version 7. But MikroTik's actually made a new video that covers Wi-Fi pretty well, I think. I think people need to actually just watch that. I don't see any like major, like there's a lot of changes, there's good changes, but I don't see anything that's going to change the way we use MikroTik right now. Let's see, let's get back onto the lab. Is my Juniper online yet? It is, awesome. Let's see if I can log in. That was 1, 2, 3, nice. Show route, OSPF, show route. Let's just look at OSPF routes. Got quite a few, so that's fine. The MPLS stuff is here because we're using LDP. Yeah, it's really cool. Let's just see. Also, I don't know if we can have better display of Wi-Fi SSIDs. We can only name master and slave, but the slave may have many SSIDs. Do we need full version of EVNG to get the Juniper thingies? No, you don't. You can mount these Juniper images in Community Edition as well. You don't need professional for it. The only downside with Community Edition is that I think you've got a limit of 64 nodes per lab, which is actually a lot if you think about it, because I've got like, what, how many nodes do I have? Like 6 nodes at the moment. I'm not sure if the networks count as a node, but yeah, 64 nodes is quite enough for any type of lab, I think. So you could definitely bring up like 5 or 6 or 7 Junipers. Just really one thing I want to stress is these Junipers eat a lot of memory. If I look at my, where's the status? It's not just memory, CPU as well. It's actually not that bad, my current usage. But that's just a single node. And I think I showed in the last lab, it's something like, was it 6 or 8 gig of memory for one Juniper node? Where with MikroTiks, I can spin up, like, I could actually reduce the memory on these CHRs, but I tend to give them like 1 gig of memory each. And I mean, you guys have probably seen I've done a ton of labs, and I get away with a lot with 1 gig. I think you really just want more memory if you start bringing in bigger services. Let's say you wanted to do something like a real full BGP table, like a feed, and you wanted to provide it as transit to customers and stuff like that, then you probably want more memory. But 1 gig is fine for testing the type of stuff that we test in the labs. Well, for the Junipers, you need to get what they recommend, but I think I can run like 5 or 6 Junipers before my machine starts to become irritated a bit. And that's where I might want to look at getting a proper server for this stuff. But, you know, I work and play on the same thing, so it's kind of redundant for me as well. I wonder, do I just want to set up this P2 device quickly? I mean, it's just a few IPs I need to add. Just quickly do that. What was it, 10? It's obviously not going to be 8, so I think we're going to do like... I think we said the /31 should be working fine. Yeah, 4 gig I think is good for full table. But even like with the new Junipers I've seen, like the ones that they recommend for full table feeds is like 4 gig minimum. So, do we want to do a /16/31 or not? Because I could bring down the IP address requirements a little bit. Let's just see how the network feels about that if I do that. No, I shouldn't do /31. That should be like a /16, 17. Then we can get 18 and 19. Then I'm going to keep the... Hey, Nick. So I'm going to keep the even IPs on the provider devices or the core devices, and then I'll just give the provider edges the uneven number. Let's just see if it's happy. So what we can do is a 10.0.0.16 on... Was it showing the interface is unknown? That is a pity. Let me just jump onto the command line. I think I've still got it here. IP address. IP. Let's do an interface. Maybe something's weirded out. No, I've got my interfaces. Why is Winbox not liking that? It's alright, Nick. If you wanna, you can catch the stream later. Like, it's fine if you just pop in, say hello, or whatnot. I understand, like, time zones vary so much. Like, it's crazy, especially if we talk to people on a global scale, because I know people that's far east and far west, and it's just, like, so crazy. Because it's either too early for some people or too late for them, so it's hard to find like the perfect time to stream, with me being a family guy as well. Let's go IP address. Add a new address. It's going to be address 10.0.0. I think I made 16 on Ether 1, hopefully. Yeah. And I can do Ether 2 as 18. And let's do a loopback IP as well. Address equals, which IPs was I using? I think I ended up changing the loopback IP for the Juniper as well, because it was complaining about using a Martian address as a loopback ID, if I remember correctly. So I could just make this 1.4 at the bottom. Let's just quickly verify if I'm not misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. So let's just show config space set. Let's just find my router ID. Yeah, 172.31.255.255. All right, so let me just make that viewable on the lab so that I don't forget. And I might want to see if I can tweak it to a Martian address, because I should be able to. I really can't see why you can't use that as a router ID, because that is a 32-bit value anyways. All right, let's jump back to RP2. I am curious why I wasn't able to add the address on the Winbox on this new CHR, because this is version 7.18 stable. Let me just maybe refresh. Does it see the addresses now that I've added them? It's not even seeing it. Let me disconnect, reconnect. Could it be because I'm connected via Ramon, and Ramon is a bit iffy with the new Winbox? I think that's possible. Let's just connect again on Ramon and see if I connect back to it again, what it's doing. It's got the IP addresses now. It's got the interfaces now. I think that was just like a weird session bug hang up thing. Yeah, that's a fair point. I'll try that. If it does not work, try hard coding the network remote address. To be fair, I tend to hard code it anyways. I'm kind of just, I'm so used to doing it that way. So what I should do is also just quickly build the OSPF config on this and the MPLS config. So let's just do both while I'm at it. Let's do a LDP instance. Our ID will be our loopback address as well as our transport address. And then my interface, Ether1 and Ether2. I think it's good to also just specify the transport address here, although I shouldn't have to. Or vice versa, I could specify the transport address here and not specify it here, but some more of those things I'm just used to doing. I wonder if I see, oh, I shouldn't see any mappings yet because the remote interfaces aren't configured yet. I feel like I'm backsitting. I should shut up. You're more qualified. No, dude. You're more than welcome to talk. I really enjoy chatting as well. It also just helps me think a bit about different perspectives, because I'm really just somebody figuring things out. Never did any MPLS. I should learn it one day. It's really fun. That's what I can say. MPLS is so cool, and people seem to think it's going to kind of go half away because of the stuff that we're figuring out with segment routing or routing. But we are so engraved in the service provider and data center space with MPLS. I can't see it fully going away. Even if everybody just uses segment routing v6 stuff and they just drop MPLS completely, the ideas of MPLS is still there, like how it's functioning and how we're doing the quality of service mappings with it. So I think MPLS principles is going to be useful either way. But let's go forth. I think I heard people fantasizing about MPLS going away for SDN or whatever. Sort of. That's also, but that was more of a, I'd say, I don't want to say a fad. What's the word? When something's popular for a little bit. And it's not because of the SDN itself per se, because SDN and MPLS also goes hand in hand. I read an amazing book, I've actually got it here somewhere, where it talks about MPLS in the SDN era. But I hear you, I get what you're saying. A lot of people, I've seen customers where they want SD-WAN because they think SD-WAN is the replacement for MPLS because it was hyped up so much on YouTube. I mean, if you think about it, like Network Chuck's biggest video that propelled him on YouTube so far was his SD-WAN video. Like everybody just wanted to know more about SD-WAN, and it's just, that's what people want. They want SD-WAN. They think it's the replacement for MPLS. They can get their sights on it, but it also, again, works hand in hand with MPLS. SDN is really cool. I like the idea of having this centralized controller where you can push and apply configuration, and you're basically separating the control plane from the physical or the data plane, that stuff. And I think it should actually be how we do things. And that's kind of where automation with network automation comes in, because now you can start building like a server like Ansible that can push the configuration and manage configuration for you, which is always really nice. Where with traditional networking, you manage every node individually, which is what I still use. I'm not like some automation pro or anything. I'm still learning that as well. But it's really cool to see the stuff that people do with networking these days. It's really fascinating. Anyways, let's get back on to just adding the OSPF stuff. Just add an instance, add an area. That's fine. And then we can just add our template. Oh, I should have actually set my... Did I set my OSPF to point in the previous lab, or did I leave it on broadcast? I think I left it on broadcast last time, which I shouldn't have done. It should actually be point to point in this case. Let's just have a quick look. OSPF or routing OSPF export. Yeah, no, this is set for broadcast. I'm going to also just quickly update the OSPF interfaces to be point to point and not be broadcast, because it shouldn't be broadcast in this type of network. I manage my routers individually too. Hypervisors are centralized on the vSphere equivalent XOA. All right, I get that. That makes sense. Let's go and just quickly tweak these settings. I think I've got my P1 open already, and this is just quick to do. So routing, OSPF interface dash template, set. Where's my, is it link type or interface type? Let's just see. It should be here somewhere. Type, just type. I'm just going to set this as PTP 40, and I can actually just copy paste that for... I don't think I've got multiple OSPF interface or interface template sets. I think it's only the one. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So that should bring that up. That should bring that up. And just tweak the Juniper quickly. Configure. Show. Protocols. OSPF. Display set. Yeah, let's just quickly set this for point to point. I can just copy paste. I think, no, not link protection. Interface type. P2P. See if I've got any compares, although I shouldn't. I literally just started this device up. So let's just do a show OSPF neighbor. Not up yet, but it's going to take a second. There we go. OSPF has reconnected. So I can quickly just add my interface templates on the P2. Add my interfaces as my Ether1, Ether2, loopback. We can set our type to PTP. And that should be it. There's one thing I want to see with my interfaces. Ah, it's nice. I love it. MikroTik does it by default. So with the interface templates, you'll realize I added the loopback interface, but I didn't set it to be passive like I had to do with the Juniper. But it automatically set it to a passive state on the interfaces. So that's pretty cool. I like that it does that. I actually remember it did that, but it's just nice to see it happen again. So this P2 should at least be up now. If I have a look at my routes, I'm not learning any routes yet. Oh, I know why it's not working. Because I'm being simple. I haven't added the OSPF or MPLS configs on the PE devices yet. So let's just go back onto Winbox or the command line. Let me just take that. So I should just be able to go routing MPLS or routing OSPF interface template. So I'm just going to edit the interface template, edit 0, and we're going to edit interfaces. And I'm just going to add Ether3. And then I'll do the same for the PE2. So routing, can you show me your IP addresses? I wonder what it is. Your allo, didn't see. So my loopback address is a /32. If I go to my Winbox session, it picks up that it was that /32 IP. I'm not sure what happens if you add multiple IPs to the loopback interface, because on Juniper there's like a weird thing you need to do to have the second IP address be sent out from OSPF as well. But let me see. Let's just add another IP. I can just add 192.0.0.5 on the loopback as well. And let's see if it looks like it advertises it out automatically as another passive interface. The moment I fix up the OSPF and the MPLS on the other PEs, we should actually see. I should actually already know it on PE1 since I added Ether3 here. So if we look at our route print, we should see I can see .4, but I don't see .5. So it does do the same thing as Juniper. That's something I might want to figure out as well, but it's not like a big burning issue for me to figure out. So let's just continue on. So by passive, all that it means is that it participates with OSPF, but it's not actively going to be trying to form connections. So you might sometimes want to even enable or set OSPF to passive on interfaces that faces like customers. If you're configuring OSPF between your equipment and their network, and you don't want your device to try and talk to them over OSPF. But if we add an interface in a passive state like this, it's going to allow me to advertise that loopback IP, but the loopback interface isn't going to try and form OSPF neighborships, if that makes sense. It just stops it from doing that OSPF bit. So I'm going to just remove that .5 IP because I don't really want it. We might poke around there a bit later. The big thing for me is just to also add the MPLS bits. Yeah, exactly. So if we go, now it's just straight MPLS, LDP, this should be my interface. Yeah. So just add a new interface, and the interface is going to be Ether3 and our transport address 192.0.0.2. And let me just complete the setup on PE2 quickly. So routing OSPF interface template, edit interface over edit 0 interfaces, add Ether3, and then MPLS LDP interface add, and our interface is going to be Ether3. Transport's going to be 192.0.0.3. And that should be it, really. That should actually get us up and running on the second core or provider 2 device. I'm not seeing any OSPF routes. Is it maybe the bug again? Let me just check from here. If I do a routing route print. No, I'm not learning anything. Okay, that's quite interesting. So OSPF. I think I know what's wrong. I haven't added the IP addresses yet on the PE1 and 2 either. So it's obviously not going to form that OSPF connection yet. So let's just add it, IP address, add address. But the MPLS stuff, we should maybe see some labels maybe. Let me just have a look here. If I look at my MPLS, no neighbors. Okay, interesting. Let's just add the IPs and then we'll work from there. So 10, 0, 0. I think it's 17 on Ether 3. There we go. I just saw some stuff come up actually. Yeah, it's all up now. And let's just do the same on PE2, but the IP address for you is 19. So I should at least start learning some routes now. Let's just see IP routes. I am learning a bunch of dynamic routes. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So if I do a pingaroo, can I get to that Juniper? Yay! So we've got connectivity from the new provider device through the provider edges to the other provider device into the Juniper. Nice. Okay. It's a pretty good start. I mean, maybe we need to do some VXLAN labbing as well. I'll see how I feel. I might even bring another Juniper up in the lab and just connect it to the P2 device. I'm actually going to do that. It's like I'm firing off ideas in my brain. So just one more VMX. Because I'll be curious to see if but I'm going to need a different device potentially as a route reflector, because I wanted to test maybe like EVPN. I could still test it though. I'm just not going to route reflect. I'll just have these two devices directly peering with each other, because that should also work, I think. Alright, so this is actually 6 gig of memory per node. So it's 2 and 4. So let's just connect these internal links up to each other, and then we can turn on our Juniper. And then once that is fired on, bring that into this MikroTik on, what was the other Juniper connected on? Also Ether 3. So this is very much just a MERD topology. Oh no, what was the Juniper on? GE000. There we go. Let's start this bad boy up again. Well, it's already started. Let's just grab a new /31 IP. And then we can make this .20. So now we're conserving so many IPs because we're not using the /30s anymore. And there's one thing I want to figure out with EVE-NG, because I figured, or I've seen, if I copy a lot of config, like from text or whatever, then I can only copy like 5 lines of code and then it breaks, and then I need to like break up my code the whole time. It's pretty frustrating actually. Let's quickly see here. I wonder if I open this up. Let's see here. That all is fine. All right, that's fine. Just a bunch of old config, old lab actually, many old. So let's just add a new window, and I'm gonna just prep the configs along for this bottom Juniper as well. So for that, I can just use the top Juniper, and we can just do a show configuration, display set. And we'll do a similar setup. Oh, I see I'm using an older version here, but it's fine. This is a pretty good version to lab on as well. I have no idea what you're talking about, Fuzzy. Not interested either. I'm just gonna block that. Yeah, I'm just blocking that. If I see stuff like that, I'm just gonna block that. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't even think Twitch bots would be a thing on a small channel. So stupid. So I don't really care about the syslog or all the other stuff. The main thing I care about is my G interface, my loopback interface. I've got Martian stuff allowed already. We want to also just update the router IDE. Let me just maybe make that 254 from the beginning. And then I can just add this IP as, what was that, 21? It should be 21/31. And then that was just connectivity to the route reflector, which I'll also have to fix up connectivity to. Yeah, it is a pain. I mean, it's not like it's the worst thing ever. It's just like, oh man, I got another, I got 2 viewers, and then the other viewer is just like some guy trying to sell, I don't know, are they trying to sell views or banners? Because that's one thing I never got like in the YouTube space either. I don't understand why people like buy views and stuff. It's so counterproductive, I think. I don't understand it at all. That's fine. That's fine. This all is fine. This is just me assuming that we're gonna form connectivity to this route reflector, but I might do direct BGP between these two provider edges, the Junipers, so that I can test something else out. I've already updated those addresses, so this should actually just be a... Yeah, this looks pretty good. There's another thing that I might want to do with set protocols. I want to add the loopback logical interface for LDP as well, but it's for something that we do with Juniper, because Juniper's got a pretty cool thing. It's very similar to MikroTik's, what's it called? Not the EOIP tunnel. So MikroTik does EOIP tunnels to do Ethernet frames and stuff like that. Juniper has a similar thing. It's called layer 2 circuits, but I think it's a little bit more advanced than what IP tunnel does. But it's pretty cool that you can basically just stretch layer 2 connectivity between two provider edges. It's a pseudo wire, but you can just stretch that layer 2 from one side to another. Tries to steal views, follows, and then when you log into their site, your account becomes one of the bots and starts posting those messages. So it's basically somebody that clicked the spam and then became the spammer. It's like those old people that you see on Facebook, and then their Facebook accounts get hacked and they're like posting these weird things. And they're like, that wasn't me that said that. All right, so let's go on forwards. I've got my configs ready for this. I can make this PE4. Just grab that. Let me see if it does what I was talking about when I copy paste, and then you can see it's so interesting. I want to actually see if I can fix that, because I swear it didn't used to do this when I was labbing in the good old of ZA. root. This device is still blank, so we can just do a set system or configure, delete chassis auto image upgrade, and set. Actually, you could just do this, delete, and then rebuild the config like that. That's the smarter way to do it. Set interface or set system root authentication. Then I can just set my lab password for it, commit it, so it doesn't keep complaining, and then I can just copy paste the config over, and we can see what happens. It actually copied everything, so I don't know why that happens. Maybe it's if there's longer lines of code. Anyways, we can just do a show compare, see what our differences are. Looks fine. Commit and quit. So now if we do it won't work because I still need to apply some configs to this P2 device, since this is that core router that this connects to. So let's just add another interface to the MPLS. What is it? LDP interface. We want to add Ether3 with 004 as the transport address, and we just want to add that device to the, or that interface to the OSPF. So Ether3, and we should see OSPF neighborships form. Let's just have a look extensively. Before we do that, let's just see, can we actually ping our friend, our neighbor? Ping. Aha! I was not going to be able to ping it because I haven't added that IP yet. So you see, it's good to be like, aha! I got it. Figured it out. I broke it myself. So let's just add the IP to the P2 device as well, 10.00.20/31 on Ether3. And now you should come up. There we go. Our ping is up. And our OSPF is up. And our... There's actually some more stuff that I want to send or set. Hey, Stefan. Greetings. Greetings, pal. So, if I want to check something more in depth, like... I maybe want to just enable traffic engineering for the OSPF as well, since we're not running ISIS. And I'm not even sure if traffic engineering works on ISIS with MikroTik. When I tested like months, maybe even when it just came out, it wasn't working properly. But it could also be that I was labbing RSVP, and that's its own beast with MikroTik. So... let's just turn on the OSPF traffic engineering. On Juniper, it's fairly straightforward. Just like configure, set, protocols, OSPF. I think you still specify the area and then, or do you? Actually, I think you just do it in the OSPF config. There should be a traffic engineering option, yes. And that is it. That's the magic command. Turn on traffic engineering. And traffic engineering is one of the coolest things ever. And all this means is when you toggle this is when OSPF starts using those opaque areas or messages or stuff. You'll see when we actually maybe do some traffic engineering. Yeah, you're right. Where MikroTik says where people say we want ISIS, and then they get it, but it only works on V4. That is magic. All right, let's just go onto the other onto the other Juniper P3. Just add that special command, commit and quit. I think for the MikroTiks, What did I do? Did I go into something else now? No. My console was just kind of over my Windows bar. I don't know how that happened. Anyways, let's go back onto our MikroTiks. So for the MikroTiks, to turn that on, it should just be a case. I think we do it under our instances itself, where we can set the MPLS TE address and TE area. Now this is going to be my backbone. This actually fills itself in. And this MPLS TE address, I think I can just make that my loopback address if I remember. So what's that? 192.0.0.4. Apply that. And let me just add it to the other MikroTiks quickly. So routing OSPF export, routing OSPF instance set. We want to set our MPLS TE address, and that is going to be my 192.0.0. What is this? .1? No, this is .2 and .3. .2. And my MPLS TE area 0.0.0.0.40. Next. And let's jump on here. Routing OSPF area instance. I could have just copy pasted, to be honest. That would have been a little bit quicker. Set address 192.0.0.3 and MPLS area 0.0.0.0.0. Let's just see, copy this and paste that onto this P1 device. Oops, I didn't like that bit. There we go. So routing OSPF. We should see. What do we see with the LSAs? This should actually be where we see some opaque stuff. There we go. That's fairly good. We're actually seeing the Juniper at the bottom there, all the way from this P1. I wonder what it looks like on the Junipers when we look at the OSPF settings or routes and LSAs and stuff. What does it see? So this should be the Juniper at the top. If we do our show protocol, no, show OSPF, might be in the database. There's opaque area summary. Oh, that's interesting. Can we have a look at this extensively? Nice, we can. We can. This is perfect. 3 minutes ago, we can see, well, that's us. That's the Juniper on the far end. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice. This is pretty good. I really need to dig MPLS. I'll show you why MPLS is cool in a second. Well, I'm hoping I don't make a fool of myself if I try and use the Junipers to show this. I might just first start on the MikroTik so I can show you like what a layer 3 VPN is. I'm not sure how comfortable or familiar you are with a layer 3 VPN. Is that terminology foreign to you, or have you worked with it before? It's basically VRF spanning, if you think about it. It allows VRFs to live between these different provider edges. And that is kind of like, you'll hear many times, and many times people say layer 3 VPNs as MPLS. They say they're talking about a solution, like a sales manager or a company, like a person that looks after a customer's account. Like they'll sell the customer MPLS, but What they're actually talking about is a layer 3 VPN, and that terminology gets mixed up so much in the IT world. I'm a backend dev since 2.5 years, but pure hobbyist in networking, so no previous training, teaching. Well, it's pretty cool. I think you know a lot. I actually think you see me as a baby net. I see myself as a baby network engineer. Like, I don't see myself as a professional either. I think I'm just happy enough or willing enough to struggle with an issue until I figure it out. Because I do think that's maybe an issue with a lot of network engineers these days, is especially the younger people. They're so scared of making changes or doing anything. I've it feels so weird. Like if they want to do something, they want to double check or triple check something first, and I don't know if it's because they're scared of accidentally breaking something, and then they don't want to be accountable for the issue, because obviously if they say, hey, my superiors told me I can do it, and it's their fault that it broke. So I don't know if that's maybe the case, but people seems to be so scared of changes. And I think that's why I love stuff like Eve, because this is a nice playground where we can break as much as we want. And I promise you, you can learn as much as you want in Eve. You can build very complex networks and you will break things and you'll learn from breaking those things. Just don't break production things on a whim, though. That is, I've seen that happen as well, and it's not because people are confident. It's just because they're not sure what the outcome can potentially be, and they flick on a setting that shouldn't be flicked on, and then it just like breaks things it shouldn't have broken. And it's very like it wasn't planned. It is an accident, but that can happen as well. But that leads back to the main issue that I have, that people are so scared of making these changes, and it just makes them more scared to make the changes. Yeah, I play on Homeland before doing stuff on my data center servers and routers. Fair play to you, sir. That's exactly what I'll do. I think it's a great place to just learn. Um, I even want to bring up my automation server again, which is literally just another VM that I have in VMware, just to start pushing automation configs in a lab like this as well, because I think that is interesting and that's pretty cool to do. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll learn about it together. Like literally, you'll see me learn as we go. It's not me being a pro showing you guys. It's just me figuring it out. And I think that's why these live streams are something that I want to do and like doing, so that you guys can see I don't have all the answers. I just figure it out. Let's see. We've got our 2, 3, 4 PEs. So firstly, let's try and build up some MPLS stuff. And this will be where a little bit of the fun starts. I'll do it on the MikroTiks again. And I'll just bring up a few more MikroTiks, like 2 of them. But think of these now as the customer's MikroTiks. This is on site. This is at their offices or at their house or at their data center. I shouldn't say house, because it's very rare you'll be spanning L3 VPNs to somebody's house. It's mostly a business type of feature. Can confirm working in the MSP game, and sadly the VeloCloud solution doesn't work well with GNS Eve due to dependencies on the cloud. Yeah, I can imagine. Alright, so let me grab the what is this? I'll just call these the CEs. It will run 718. I'm not going to add a lot of resources. This will just be very basic devices. I'll just rename to CE1 and 2. Actually, let's just be more descriptive with this. I'll make it customer 1. So CE2 customer 1. And CE1 customer 1. And then when I add more customers, you'll see why this is actually cool and actually kind of needed. So let's just bring customer 1 into the provider edge 1. And I'll bring them in on Ether 4, which is fine. Or maybe let's start on a opposite far end port. So I'll do the same on both ends. Ether 12. So I maybe want to make this just look a little bit neater as well, because it's so cool seeing a network spring to life. But we can start up these nodes along, although MikroTik nodes again start up crazy fast. These devices boot up almost instantaneously. Let me just open up the window and then I think you can. It's already live. It's alive. The Juniper would still be figuring out what's happening, but maybe it's a good and bad thing, you know, because it shows me that the Juniper has a lot more that it's needing to figure out. Well, that's just a whim, I guess. I'm not that big on what's happening under the hood with these devices. So let's just decide on some layer 3 IPs that we just want to set up between our links. And this will just be for the layer 3 VPN, because you can kind of like treat a layer 3 VPN as a WAN connectivity. There's two remote foreign networks that's able to connect to each other over the MPLS, over a WAN solution, which is quite cool. So let's give it some. Let me use like the CGNAT IPs, even though this is technically not what they're supposed to be used for. I'm just going to use this as some private IP addressing as well. I think we can even do the /31s. So 164. Yeah, there's a few things we can do here. 0.2/31. That looks fairly fine. So what I'll do is just add these IP addresses to the node. So long admin blank v. I love it when it breaks like this. I think I mentioned to you guys before in the previous stream, like this happens. Maybe that's why it boots up so so slowly on the Juniper. But that's not a MikroTik issue. That I think that has something to do with Eve and PuTTY and stuff. It sometimes happens with my MikroTik nodes on Eve, but if you connect to it over Winbox, it's still working fine. So it's not a actual issue. So let's just do a system identity set name. This was CE2. I'm not going to add the customer bits here. Let's just add the IP address, add address 164 0.3/31 on my Ether1 interface. And I'm going to do the same on the other end. And this is so cool. I love that you can do this with Windows now, where you can kind of like dock these terminals in like separate places like that. Where was my CE2? And then I can just move CE1 there, and then things are like next to each other. That's really fun. I love it, especially if you have a much bigger monitor somewhere. Then you can like have 3 or 4 terminal stations, and it looks good. Doesn't look all smooshed. There we go. So system identity set name. This is going to be my P or CE1. IP address add 164 0.1/31 on Ether1, and I'm just going to add the IP addresses on the other end. So that was here, PE1, PE2. Do I still have them open? I do. I've got a bunch of stuff open. I'm getting to that critical point that most network engineers get to, where you just start having like a bazillion tabs open to things, and you you kind of don't need it, and then you just forget where you are sometimes. That's a great place to be at. So let's just add the IP address. And this address is going to be 164 0.0/31 on my Ether12. And similarly, my PE2, which is over there, IP address add address 164 0.2 on Ether12. Let me just see if I can ping .3. That I can ping. Yeah, it's so easy to get lost with all the terminals. So I've got basically just WAN connectivity, but this isn't going to be routing per se. This is going to be our MPLS stuff that we want to configure now, where this customer basically has their own little private cloud inside our network. You can almost imagine it's not layer 2 VPN, which is its own beast, where you basically span a pseudo wire. This is allowing different networks to live inside the same cloud and be able to talk to each other. So if I took one of these, what is this? It's like a custom shape, although there's cooler stuff that I could do with some writing tools to illustrate this, but I'm a bit scared of some of those writing tools, especially if you use the free versions. You'll probably end up with some of those bots on the channels if you if you go to those sites, so I tend to stay away. Um, so we could do just like a rounded thingy, border with that. I might like to do something like a purplish outline, even though I'm going to change a few things. This is just for like an illustration. What we're kind of doing is, it's not one block like this, like what VPLS would be. We would just have these two separate blocks almost. And you could think of these two purple blocks being a customer, like customer 1, and they'd be able to exchange routes and learn each other's routes and get to each other's sites through our MPLS cloud, which is in the middle of the provider network. We're providing them a means to do this, which is what I love about service provider networking, because you're able to provide these very specific services to customers. It's really cool. Now, if we actually just add the config, and I might add another block for the same customer and do this from the Juniper, or see if we can make it work from the Juniper through the Microtix, which I actually think we can. I think it will work just fine, but still, we never know what's going to happen in the lab world. Maybe we mess something up, maybe we need to test something, but we'll test that when we actually get there. Let's just first establish these two CEs to be able to see each other. Or let's also just define what the customer networks will be. So customer might have their own subnets, but that's also the cool thing with layer 3 VPNs. Since they're in their own little cloud, their own VRF, they can have whatever private IPs they want. And if another customer is using those same private IPs, it doesn't matter because they're in their own VRF, they're in their own cloud. That's what allows us to have all of these awesome overlapping IPs, because the service provider network doesn't care about it. The service provider just sees the VRF. It doesn't care about your private IPs, although it will see it, but just to make sense of it. So let's just change this color, maybe make that a purple. And then I can just give this LAN subnet maybe something, what would be easy, 192.168.20.0/24, and then the other side I'll make .10 because that's easy to follow along with. It's not like difficult to understand. So we know .10 is the first side, and then .20 is the second side. So what I can do is just name this something like, well, the name isn't that important, but I'm just gonna create a name as well because it looks nicer. So let's just make this maybe like, well, it's already there. No, I'm not gonna do that. It already illustrates already where's site 1 and site 2 and all that stuff. So from our provider edge, what I shall do is a few things. I might log on via Winbox for this because it's been a while since I've done it on Microtik, but it should still be relatively the same type of process. So I might just open up a new Winbox session. Just admin blank, connect to the Ramon, and connect onto the PE1. And then from the PE1, do I need to zoom in at all? No. So what I'll do is, firstly, I'll create a new VRF. So this is where I'm going to have that customer's whatever cloud type of thing, because I'm basically going to be placing their interface, their Ether12 interface inside this VRF. So I can call this VRF customer 1. And then I can just place the customer's interface. This is their port, it's their line, it runs to their office. I'm going to place that onto there. And the cool thing is you can do it with VLANs as well. It doesn't just need to be physical interface. You can put a VLAN interface in a VRF. So if you had something like an aggregated interface with multiple VLANs for separate customers, you could separate the customers still on a VLAN level inside different VRFs, which is really useful. So we've got our VRF set. Now our second part will be that we need to enable our BGP. So we're going to do this through BGP. There's different ways to maybe achieve the same thing. But what I'm going to do is just set a route distinguisher, which is going to be my loopback address, which in this case is 002. So 192.0.0.2, followed by my ASN number, which was 6500, I think, or 65,000. Let's just have a look at my routing quickly. Well, I was already there. Yeah, so that was my ASN. And then I can now set which VRF is this for. Well, this is for the customer 1 VRF. Then we can do a label allocation policy per VRF or per prefix. I'm going to use per VRF. Now I can do my import router ID. Now this I'm not 100% sure of. Let's just use this as my loopback address. We'll play with that because I don't remember this import router ID. Our route targets is basically very important. So here we can specify the same type of thing. So maybe I want to import the route targets as actually I want to change this route distinguisher because we kind of want this a little bit unique for some certain things as well. So I'm going to use maybe a different ASN here. Maybe I can make it 1. So we can use our router and then 1. That might work fine. Let's just have a look. Or let's revert. There's a few tests I want to do here. So let's do it's not the filters we want want our import route targets. I'm just going to copy paste this. So it's 192.0.0.2.65.0.0, 192.0.0.2.65.0.0. So this is where I might want to change a few details, but it's fine. I'm really considering now just making this 1 because you do kind of want these route targets to be different per VRF, per customer. So my route distinguisher, I could maybe make this, which is this actual node. And then my targets, I should be able to import and export something else. So let's try it as this :1. And we can also redistribute some stuff if we want. So maybe we want to just redistribute our connected routes or any additional BGP routes or any static routes, but let's just do the connected routes for now so that it should be able to send out that 100.64.0.0/31 and .2/31 over the MPLS network. So let's just apply that. And I should just have a look at my connection as well. I just want to make sure I've got L3 VPNs or VPN v4 selected. I do. So that should be fine. We shouldn't have any issues. So then the next step that I want to do is actually the same on the opposite provider edge. So let's just open up another Winbox session. Connect this to Ramon. Get onto my PE2. And then let's go into our IP VRF, create a new VRF. I don't remember if it was capital. It doesn't really matter because this VRF is kind of just local to the node you're working on. The important bit is those route targets. So let's go into our routing, BGP, add a new VPN. So route distinguisher, this is going to be 192.0.0, what was this, .3 with our ASN. I'll do this for the customer 1 VRF per VRF. And let me just fill that in as the import router ID. I'll have to check that out on the documentation as well, I think. I'm not 100% sure what this import router ID is now. So let's just do our import route targets. And that was 192.0.0, what was that, 3. Because this is gonna not match now. I need to make a slight change. I need to go into my VPN, and this is where we're going to use this. We're going to use our ASN with the site ID basically, or the customer VRF route target. I think that should be what we want to do. Redistribute the connected routes, and let me just see if we're actually learning those route informations on the route reflector. And that was just the P1 device, so that is as easy as jumping back on Winbox again and going on to P1 and connecting, and let's see what we see. I could also just do a quick routing route print, and we should see some BGP route there for the L3 VPN. There. I've highlighted them. If it's not really visible, then I can also just bring it up on from the command line here. So routing, route, print. We just scroll down a bit. We can see we're learning these routes via BGP for VPN 4, which is layer 3 VPN. And we're learning 164.0.0/31. And that's where we're learning it from. So now the question is the remote node actually learning it? And we should actually see it as a copy route. So let me see if I go onto the PE1 or 2. If I look at my routes here and I go to that customer's routing table, I do see it. So that is pretty neat. That is expected, actually. That is what should happen. So we're learning the remote route of the customer. I think this is where it looks a bit different with if you're using Juniper, because you might just see that as a BGP route. You're not going to see it as a copied route, because that's what that Y stands for. If you're not sure what the flag is, it's pretty weird. But if we double click it, it's actually telling us it's a BGP MPLS VPN. That's pretty cool. I don't think I've seen that before. I don't know if other people have seen it before, but I don't remember that I've seen it before. The question is it actually working? So if I do a ping across, can I actually get there? So the easiest way to test this would just be from the customer's VRF. So I could do a ping to 164.0.2, because that's the remote route. And I could specify, I think you need to set VRF here. There used to be a routing instance, but that's been taken away a while ago. So VRF, this should be our customer one. Okay, so I did make it the lowercase on the one side. And we're getting some timeouts. If I source it, source address 164.0.0. Okay, so that actually works. So it's probably that it wasn't sourcing correctly, and it was probably like using its default interface in its own main routing instance. So that's good. So this should in theory mean, and I know this is kind of confusing if you don't work with it a lot, but what it should mean is this customer edge 1 should be able to get to this customer edge 2 over its layer 3 IP, over its WAN connection. So we can test that as well. I can just go into this customer edge 1 and I should just be able to ping 164. Let's just see, can I ping my gateway? That looks like I can ping it. It kind of looks weird, but I can ping it. Can I ping .2? And that's failing. So that's weird. I'm actually expecting that to work. IP address print. Oh, did I have it as .22? Whoops. Okay, but that's also still failing, so that it doesn't matter. You did .22. Thanks. I didn't even see it, but it's also failing. Ping 164.02 routing. What is this? Source address 164.0.1. So that's fairly interesting. I'm just going to run this ping, and then I want to have a quick look and see what's happening. So if this should actually take us up to PE2 directly, I'm sure. I just want to capture some traffic quickly. So if I look at Ether 12, what does this show us? What is wrong? What is the issue? Seeing some DHCP messages, but that I don't care about. Oh, I think I know what it is, and it's going to be very, very simple if it's what I think it is. So I could ping my gateway, but I couldn't ping that remote address. But I haven't set up any routing on this device yet. If I do IP route print, I only know my directly connected route. I need to either use BGP and form a connection to this remote site, or I can add some static routes. Now static routes is a nice, quick, easy fix. So I could just do an IP address or IP route. So let's just add a default route out, and I'll just use 164.0.0 as my gateway. So I think that should actually allow me to get to, need to drop off, thank you, and keep going, like your content. Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate you tuning in. It was nice having you on the YouTube stream as well. It gives .0 and .1, but you ping .2. Yeah, so .2 is what, if we go back to this topology, I'll show you. And it makes sense why I didn't see the messages in the Wireshark or the packet capture, because it wasn't actually trying to route the traffic. But let me just close this. So we've got a /31 WAN connectivity between the customer edge 1 and PE1. So the customer edge 1 knows how to get to 164.0.0 because that is the PE1 address, and it obviously knows how to get to .1 because that was its own address. But I was trying to get to 164.0.2, which is the PE2's IP on this side, on Ether 12, because I know I should be able to get to that IP regardless of what's happening on the CE2 itself, because this is still inside the MPLS network. This is inside the ISP's network. So I should in theory be able to get there, but let's see if I can actually get there now that I've added the route. Can I ping it? Yes, I can. That is awesome. That is fantastic. And if we run the ping and we go back to our packet capture, even though I think I've closed it now, if I capture again on Ether 12, we should see those packets now. And let's just do OK. And there I can see the ICMP messages. I can see I'm doing a request and I'm getting a reply. This is awesome. I love it. I love it. This is so cool. Now I just need to add routing on the CE2, and that would now allow these two remote ends to communicate with each other. Now I'm going to do it with very basic static routing at the moment because it's very rudimentary. It's very easy to understand when you see how things are done statically. Although I highly recommend wherever possible, use dynamic routing, use BGP, use OSPF, use these things because they make everybody's lives easier. It's easier for everybody as a team to sort out a BGP issue than what it is for some administrator to add some static route 10 years ago, leaves the company, and somebody new joins, and then they try and figure out how things work. And then they need to go through every little crumb of configuration to figure stuff out. But just for demonstrating this, it's easy to just add some static routes. So IP route add. Our destination will be a default and our gateway will be 164.0.2. So now I think from the CE2, which is this customer edge equipment on the far right side, I should be able to reach the customer edge equipment on the far left side, which is two completely remote ends. These could be two offices for a customer, a client, a company. They could be in different cities. They could be in different countries even. They could even be in different continents. That's how cool and awesome this stuff really is. That's why I love this stuff so much. But let's just add the ping and see, can we get to 164.0.1? Yay! It's working. It's alive. I always feel like Frankenstein's doctor, or is Frankenstein the beast, or Frankenstein's the doctor? He's the scientist, and then it's Frankenstein's monster is the thing that like rises up and like is angry and looking for I don't know what he's looking for. I haven't actually really watched that movie often. I remember watching it when I was quite small. But you feel like a mad scientist when you get this stuff working. It's always so nice. So this MPLS is working, but let's add the customer subnets into the equation. In this instance, yes. In this instance, we need to add a default route to the point-to-point gateway because the customer's equipment didn't know how to get to any other networks at that moment. But we'll fix it when we add some BGP. I'm just doing everything again statically right now. But here's going to be a little fun bit. So I'm just going to add two little virtual PCs. These are like dumb, small Linux boxes almost. And these are going to act like customer network devices. So I'm just going to, well, maybe we can, that's going to look a bit funky if I do it that way. Let me just delete that. Grab this other box, bring it over here. Bring that PC there. It's just so that this looks a bit neater on the eyes. So now we're going to bring the customer's network into the equation. You know, they've got their own machines, they've got their own things that needs to talk to each other. Servers, printers that needs to get to print servers, people that need to get to file shares, people that need to get to each other. You know, the default corporate environment, they need to get to each other's stuff. Alright, because no routing at all right now, we can still do the default to the WAN, but either static there. Yeah. I do think you get it now. I do think that that's exactly what's happening. So these routes are being learned through IBGP with that VRF. The VRF is basically being spanned between the service provider network. And I'm going to show you now, if I like add a second customer and I'll have some overlapping subnets, like why this is such a cool technology. All right, let's start these PCs up. And I might just quickly do some very basic setup on the MikroTik. So let's just do an IP address add. This will be 192.168.10.1/24 on Ether 2. And then I'm going to be super lazy and just add a DHCP server. So I'm going to do IP DHCP server. I think Where is it? DHCP server. What am I doing? There should be a setup. Yeah. So I can do a DHCP server setup. I'm going to set it up on Ether 2. No. I just care about the device getting a IP address. I don't even care about the DNS at the moment. So I'm just going to have the DHCP run there, and then on this virtual PC I can just do IP DHCP. Should do its little DORA process. It should obtain an IP because it did. And now I can see this DHCP machine has now received 192.168.10.254 from the on-site microtik at the company headquarters or building or whatever. So now the question is, can I ping out? So if I ping 192.168, I should be able to ping my gateway, yeah. Can I ping the WAN IP 164.0.0? And I already know that's going to fail. And the reason why that's failing is because the ISP network now again doesn't know what that 192 address is. Even though the ISP network doesn't care about stuff like overlapping subnets, it still sees traffic come in from that VRF, and it needs to understand how it needs to route that back, if it needs to even route it back. So let's just add a little bit more config, and this is where I'm going to add a static route now on the PEs back to the customer edges with these LAN subnets inside the VRF. You'd need to static route at the edge of the customer one network. So in this instance, we're now going to route the customer subnets back from the PE. So just an example, so from PE1, I'm going to add a static route to say, hey, if I want to get to this customer's subnet, 192.168.10.0/24, inside this customer's VRF, which is this purple VRF, then I'm going to just send that to 164.0.1, which is the customer edge equipment. And this customer edge equipment now already knows where that IP is, since it's a network that we just configured on it locally. We added the IP. It's a directly connected host or network, so it will just do its basic networking from there. Alright, so let's just do that first thing where I said I'm going to add a static route on the PE1. So let's just find PE1. And then for PE1, I said we're just going to add a route. And the route we're going to give it a destination as the destination was 192.168.10.0/24, and the gateway was 164.0.1. Now this is not where it ends. We actually need to specify now there used to be a routing instance. You could specify there's routing table, so I could set the routing table for that, and that is now going to be the customer one routing table, their VRF. So now if I look at the IP route print, and we could actually dumb this down a little bit. I can also do a where routing table equals customer one. We can see there is a inactive route towards the customer interface. I actually think there's something else I need to do to make this work. I think I have to specify that at customer one bit like this. So let's just quickly do that. If I do a routing or IP route export and then IP route set, we should be able to set the gateway as 164.0.1 at customer one. If I have a look at that route again now it's no longer inactive. If I just scroll up, there it was inactive because it was going to use that IP address gateway, but it didn't know which VRF it was really in, even though I did specify the routing table. I swear version 6 allowed you to just do it with the routing table and would automatically deal with this at bit stuff. But anyways, whatever. Here it is. It's there. It's now allowing me to get to 100.64.0.1 if I want to get to this network. So we can actually test it. I can see, can I ping 192.168.10.1, which I know is the customer edge or customer edge LAN IP, which is bound on their Ether 2. I should be able to ping it, and if I want to ping again, I need to specify maybe my source address. Although I should just be able to specify the routing or VRF as customer 1, and it's going through. And that's perfect. That is exactly what we want. Because if you remember earlier when I showed this stuff, if I was on that virtual PC, I couldn't even ping the PE1 IP from this virtual PC. But now that I could already ping it from the PE1, I know I should be able to ping it from the virtual PC if I just up arrow it and hit enter. I can see the ping is working. Hang on, let me just read what you're asking. Would the MPLS provider be able to access customer internal network itself then? Well, I guess they will firewall it off. But to a degree, yes. To a degree, this is just two networks. If your MPLS provider was like really malicious and they wanted to create another bogus site and they put some server in there, then they could be in your VRF as well. It's actually not unheard of, and it's not like that ISPs do that, but you might see stuff like that happen in managed service providers where they might provide DMZ services to a customer, where they might host the customer servers inside their data center. And since the MSP is actually administering the servers as well, they look after the servers, they look after all the infrastructure, then they're kind of going to have to need to get to the customer's LAN networks from the servers, and this is just how they'd be able to do that. It's another one of those cool use cases, I guess. But I doubt your ISP would, like my ISP would like put their own VRF in my VRF to get to my stuff to see what I'm doing. That's not typically how they do that. But yes, you'd be able to restrict traffic as well with firewalls. So if you manage the customer edge, then you could definitely add some layer of protection with firewalls just to make sure no random stuff can get to things it shouldn't. All right, so we've got connectivity from this. Now we just need to do the PE2 quickly, and since we saw how quick the change was, it's going to be fairly quick on the PE2. So what we're going to do is IP route destination 192.168.20.0/24, and our gateway is going to be that should be 164.0.3 at, and here I've got it as a capital C, which is actually important. So don't be me. Try and keep it the same, otherwise it can be confusing, because I might have accidentally made this like a lowercase c and it wouldn't take it, because that would have been for a different VRF that doesn't exist. And let's just specify our routing table as well as customer 1. And if I look at my IP route print, I can see I am learning.20. So technically from the provider edge 2, I should be able to ping 192.168.20.1 from the customer VRF. No, I can't. And I need to check why I can't. It might be a few things. It might be that I even haven't created that network on this customer edge yet. I actually think that's the case. So let's just do an IP address print. Yeah, that's the case. So I can just add that IP. Add 192.168.20.1/24 on my Ether 2, and then I should see that's actually responding now. Yep. And then we can just quickly add that DHCP server as well. So IP DHCP-server setup, not set up. Just a clean little DHCP wizard. Enter Ether 2. Yep. And then if I go to this second VPC, if I do a IPDHCP, I get an IP. And now, can I ping 192.168.20.1? Yes, I can. Can I ping 164.0.2? Yes. All right, cool. So from a WAN perspective, both of the customer networks can now get to their respective provider edges. So the WAN connectivity is kind of there, but the question is, can these two sites actually get to each other? Now, I already know they can't, and I'll explain why they can't in a second, but let's just test that out in real time. Let me see if I go to my VPC, and this was the 20 device. So let's just test. Can I ping 10.254? Because I'm pretty sure 10.254 is the other VPC. If I look at VPC 11, if I scroll up, 192.168.10.254 is its IP address. Can I ping that from one side to the other? And I can't. I can see it's already just telling me destination network unreachable. And I can see I'm even getting that destination network unreachable from my provider edge. So 164.0.2, which is PE2, is telling my client here, hey, I can't get you to that other network. And it's going to be the same error message from VPC 11 to VPC 12. And it's just because that customer subnet I'm not redistributing, so to say, across the MPLS network yet. So how can I do that? Well, there's a few ways we can do it, but the first and easiest way is just to go into the provider edges and just redistribute static routes. So I can go into my routing, BGP, and then inside the VPN configuration, because when I started this config, I added it to redistribute the connected routes, which is how I learned the IP addresses of these Ether12 WAN IPs across the MPLS. So if I just redistribute my static routes, and I just did it on PE1, and if I go to PE2, this is going to be interesting. If I go to PE2 and have a look at its routing table, and I look at the customer 1 VRF, I'm now learning 192.168.10.0/24. And if I turn off that redistribute static routes, because I'm advertising the static routes in that VRF that I've added, it's going to go away. So let me just add the routes, or if I go back to PE1 and you have a look at the routing table there, we can see I'm learning my own route over the MPLS as well, but it's marked blue because it's obviously a worse route than my static route here. But let's see, I'm not seeing 192.168.20.0/24. So can I make that work? Can I actually learn that or see that? Yeah, so on PE2, same change, routing, BGP, go into our VPN configuration for this customer, and then I can just go into my static. So let's just redistribute our static route. Once that's been done, I go back to PE1. I'm learning 192.168.20.0 now, so that's perfect. So technically, I think if I go back to this VPC 12 now, if I ping now, I think this should work. So let's just see. Voila! Voila! I love it. So we're able to get across an MPLS network that we just built. And again, this is like real-time stuff we're doing here. We just brought on 2 remote sites online on an ISP network that we just built from scratch, and it's technically working. If you took these configs and applied it to a real piece of hardware, this is what the outcome would be. These 2 remote sites would now be able to communicate on different network addresses, and they'll be able to speak to each other, exchange information. Like I said, one side could be a head office, the other side could be a branch, and then the branch could be able to get to some file shares or connect to print servers, or just maybe some administrator needed to RDP from the head office to a little server that's on the branch, now they'll be able to do that as well. So that is what you've enabled. Really, it sounds simple, but it's so powerful what we've just done, because we've now just enabled the business to communicate at a vast distance. And the fact that we as a service provider could do that is like so cool. I don't know why I nerd out about this stuff, but I think it's really really awesome to be able to do this. All right, so that is just from the MikroTik perspective. Let's maybe see if we can introduce a third champion. So maybe I'll just add one more MikroTik for good measure. Or maybe let's be brave. Let's be very brave. Let me add a Vios node. I haven't tested a lot of Vios. There's actually been a lot of talk about Vios recently. I'm not sure if something bad happened. I'm not into all of the politics behind things. But I just remember seeing people being unhappy with Vios for some reason. I'm not sure if it had something to do with the nightly builds. I'm not sure if they took it away or what the issue was. I might Google that quickly, to be honest. Vios. I'm just going to go into the Vios Reddit, because that should actually tell me exactly what's going on. I don't see anything weird there. If anybody knows what's up with Vios, like, feel free to let me know, but I have no clue. All right, so let's see. Let's jump this Vios box into this Juniper. And I'll connect that on GE009. I think Vios also starts up relatively quickly. Yeah, it does. So I can just log in Vios. Well, I could, if I could type properly. I probably typed wrong again, because I could feel my fingers slip there. Vios. Yeah. So now I just need to remember how to do some stuff on Vios, but it shouldn't be too difficult. I mean, it's just another networking platform. So let's do 164.0.4. Then what I could do is on the Vios box. I think it works with ifconfig as well. Yep, it does. I've got my, what's that, Ether 0 I've connected. And it works very much like Juniper. I mean, I think I made a video on Vios a while ago as well. So it's like configure mode, set interfaces. What is this? Ethernet ETH0. Is this address? Yep, address. Then we can just add an IP address. So this was 164.0.5/31. And let me add a Ether1 IP address as well. And let's maybe make that like 192.168.30.1/24, because it just follows along with what our NAND subnets were. So if I commit that, it should take it. And let's add another virtual PC as well, VPC. Pop that in there. Ether1. Start that up. For this, I might just quickly add the IP address statically, because I'm not too familiar again with the DHCP setup on Vios. It'll be quickly figured out, but this is just going to be quicker. So 192.168.30.254/24, with our gateway being 192.168.30.1. And then I should be able to ping 192.168.30.1. Yeah, cool. So PC can get to VIOS node. I haven't configured the Juniper side yet, so let's just do that. It should be this one, I think. Yeah. So we could do a configure, and then we can do maybe like a set interfaces GE009. Let me do it on the .0 interface, which is just like the default interface. You can have different logical units on Juniper as well, but 0 is like the root, the basic. So, oh, I'm starting to feel that tiredness. Family inet address 164. I might just try and get this Juniper into the MPLS, and then I might call it a night. Although I've said I'll stop streaming at 11 from now on, but I just want to push a little bit. So 164.0.4/31, and commit. So if I run a ping, can I get to the VIOS box? Yes, I can. So we've got that portion of the connectivity working. Now the question is, can we get these three blocks, these three purple blocks, the customers' networks, into the same VRF? Can we get them talking? Can we get them communicating? Because that's where a lot of the fun is. So what we should be able to do is, if I look at my show display set match BGP, I'm pretty sure the BGP is already set for iNet and iNet VPN, which should allow us to do layer 3 VPNs. So what I'm going to do is set routing instance, and then I could call this customer 1. Now the one with the lowercase is the wrong one. And then we can do a few things with the customer 1 routing instance. Now the first thing is I might want to change this instance type to a VRF, and then I might want to add a few things. So let's just do the instance type VRF. I could do all of this in one line also, but I'll just do this in order so it kind of makes sense what I'm doing. So I'm creating a VRF. Then I'm going to add that interface into the VRF. Think of it like the MikroTik, where I added a VRF and then added an interface to that VRF. It's kind of the same principle. So I'm just adding interface GE-009.0 to this to this routing instance. Now I need to do a few things. So the first thing I need to do is just set my route distinguisher. And that is where I made it the node. So that was, well, this is going to be 172.31.255.255 with my ASN number. Then we need to set some route targets and route, well, that's just basically the imports and exports. But we could do a VRF target. So VRF target. Was it like this? I'm trying to remember the exact syntax. Customer 1. I'm pretty sure it's VRF target we're going to use. And this is where I could potentially make it, well, I could specify import and export, but I'm pretty sure you could do something like target, what was that, 65501. Or is it targets? Let me just check if it's complaining about anything. Yeah, it is. So let me just delete that bit of config. I'm pretty sure you could set the VRF targets. Let me just quickly go onto the configuration. Where is that? BGP. Well, that's not what I want. All right, I think it should take that. So we can do a set routing instance, VRF target, and that's where I can specify 6555 like that. And then I also want to do VRF table label. And let's see if I do a show compare. If I do a commit check, what is this? Triton mode. RT instance only. Let me Google that now and watch. It's going to be something like I need to add the license or something. Let me just check. This seems to be license related. Awesome, awesome. However, I should have a license for this version. So I might be able to get away with it. So run show system software. Run show system license. So you might be able to see me do this live on the Juniper. So let me just, I think this should be the key. I just want to make sure. Yes, it is. This is universal. Like Juniper gives these this is the trial key for all of the Junipers, but this only works for VMX version 18. This does not work for the newer version. So that other Juniper node I spun up, I might have to just gut to, unfortunately. So let's just do a run request system license add. Let's add a new license from the terminal. Copy paste that. License added, no errors. And there we go. We see we've got some more stuff that we're allowed to do. So if I do a commit check now, what does it say? Now it succeeds. Oh, that was fun. Good old Triton mode. Never knew. So let's quickly see now. If I do a... There's one more thing I could have checked, if I remember. I just want to go back to my messages. I wonder if it will just redistribute a static route automatically from the VRF. It might. But let's just see. I'm actually learning the routes. So show route table. And that should be my customer 1.inet 0. So I'm not learning those routes. And if I do a... it's got 4 hidden routes. But that's for that is INET 0. So if I look at my route table for hidden routes, I can actually see I do learn those routes. And if I see why is it being hidden, why is it being hidden? That is a fairly good question. I'm not sure if it's because it's unverified. It could be because of that. It sees it as an internal or IBGP route, which is fine. Import accepted. There is a VPN label. I think it might just be because of its unverifiedness. I think there is something we can tweak to allow the unverified IPs. But the question is, or something I might find cool is if this Juniper's routes are being advertised to the other devices. I just want to add a static route as well. So configure set routing instance customer 1 routing option, and then I can add a static. We can add the route. We can specify our destination as 192.168.30.0/24, and our gateway, or our, do I just specify the gateway? Next hop, that is Juniper slang, is going to be our 164.0.5. Gonna check. All right, I just want to have a look and see on the Junipers or on the MikroTik if I'm learning those routes, and I am. So it's literally just a Juniper that's not enjoying what I'm trying to tell it. Let me just see what happens if I try and run a ping from one of the customer networks. So this was the P2. I don't really want to see from there. Let's see from the VPC. Where am I? VPC 11. And I'm ping 192.168.30.1. And that's timing out. All right. Can I ping 164.0.4? No. So I'm just having some issues getting to the Juniper stuff. So what can I do to tweak that or just force that? I might just quickly use the good old Google or look at the Juniper docs. Juniper BGP allow unverified. Okay, let's see. Looks more or less like what I want to do. Oh, we should also be able to see exactly why it's hiding it. So if I just do a grep hidden, secondary hidden int exchange protection candidate. And then we can just Google that. I'm fairly sure if I had Juniper to Juniper, I should be able to make it work. Oops. I could also try do the next hop self on the route reflector. Let's just test that out. I don't think that should break anything. So routing BGP, let's do, is it under the, I'm pretty sure it's there. Next hop choice for self. Next hop choice for self. Next hop choice for self. Let's just see what that does. Not seeing hidden now. No, I'm seeing hidden. Never mind. It just probably BGP wasn't connected yet. Still the same reason. Let me just see from my VPC. Still comping that. Can I at least still get to my old devices? Yep. Okay. So let's just Google a bit more. I'm sure there's something that I can just force with the routing options or a route policy to make it work. So let's see here. Let's remember. Okay, that didn't help me much. I'm just going through Juniper docs. Juniper docs, Juniper docs, Juniper docs. I'm also sure it should work if I just fully mesh them, because I'm pretty sure I've had it working between Juniper and MikroTik as well. I just don't recall if I had it working with the I almost think I remember doing it with the MikroTik route reflector as well. Sorry, I'm just reading, so I'm not even seeing any chat or anything right now. Let's try that maybe. So we can do a configure, a set routing instance, customer one. There's two things that I can try. So the first I'd like to try is should be a routing options and autonomous system. Autonomous system. Independent domain. No, but I'm not doing any BGP in the customer's network yet, so that should not be the fix. Let me just delete this bit. So, set routing instance. I'm pretty sure it's just having to do something with installing the routes from the MPLS table. Let me just see if I have any changes saved. No, so well, apparently I do. Yes. Show route. It's fine. Hmm. That's all the same. The CLI looks very close to Vios. That's good to know. I liked Vios Management CLI. I guess it says based on Viata. It's inspired from Juniper. Yeah, I think that is the case. Can't afford a Juniper hardware though, let alone license behind it. So that's where it that's where it comes behind like what I'm doing. These virtual Juniper, this doesn't cost me anything, and that trial license that I loaded onto it, it lasts 60 days, and then you can basically just scratch it. And but what I could recommend people do is you just export that config, load up a new Juniper, import that config on the new Juniper, and load because the trial license you can just keep loading it. Like that trial license I've got here, you can just keep renewing it. People's been doing stuff like that on MikroTik as well. Like they get a trial license on the x86 and then they just keep doing this stuff. So I'm just basically reading. So I know that's boring. I know that's the boring part, sorry. But this is one of these things that I just need to troubleshoot a little bit. I mean, it's probably something silly that I'm just forgetting to do. That's not what I want to read. Might have found something. Though that doesn't seem 100% like what I need either. Oh, this is a little messy for me. Configure. Set. Protocols, OSPF, traffic, engineering. I mean, I've got LDP working. But how does... Let's do set protocols, MPLS. What's this? Traffic engineering. Let's try this. Go check. Quit and quit. Show out. No, it's still hidden. Show out table, customer one. What was the other option? This. Show there. Quit. Could also have something to do with my next top self. Yeah. So I'm going to do a bit more research and see why I'm not able to learn the routes. Although it is learning it, it's seeing the routes, it's receiving those prefixes, it's just being hidden from the routing table, it's not being installed. So I need to figure that out. But it is advertising its prefix at least to the rest of the MikroTik devices, and the MikroTiks are definitely sending it. We just need to fix that one little thing, and it's probably just a small setting somewhere I'm forgetting or missing or not using correctly. So I will have to figure that out. But I think this is going to then be where I will call the lab. Yeah, so it's been a pretty good session, to be honest. I mean, if you want to unwind a little and ask some questions like what we've covered over the lab or done, you're more than welcome to. I'll still sit around for a few minutes, and then I'll kind of officially just start locking down the stream. Let's do one of these cool videos like, am I? It's not showing me. Damn, I was hoping it was gonna just show me in my YouTube video place. Ah, there you can see even like half my green screen, or is it the other side? This side. It's not functioning properly. It's because I'm using OBS to I'm using like the Elgato Camera Hub as well, and it has like this auto feature where it like removes green screen stuff. Is this the perfect time for you? It's just like this is it's almost midnight for me now, and I'm pretty tired after a full day as well. But we figured out quite a few things. There's a lot that happened in the lab. I just need to figure out something with this Juniper. I mean, it's pretty cool. Let me see if I can get this green screen away. Like, I actually don't even like the green screen that much. It just makes it easier when I'm streaming or recording videos. But my background is pretty fine. Like, this is fine. There we go. I mean, I've had this setup where I had the screens and stuff behind me, but then the room has like weird reverb and it causes like a lot of voice issues almost. Green screened. Did it? It's probably because there's there's a little bit of green in here, I think. That's probably what happened. It's like a Dota t-shirt. I don't know if you play Dota or anything, but it's pretty fun. Not fun if you see through me. Reminds me of a joke I heard when I was growing up as a kid, where if you were standing in front of somebody, they'd ask you if your father was a glass maker or something to that extent, because obviously they couldn't see through you. So silly thing. The good old days. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think with this lab we can also maybe really pick up the EVPN. No, not the although I want to do EVPN. I want to do EVPN between the Junipers, but we can test out the VXLAN between the MikroTiks as well. There's just one thing we need to sort out, which is this VRF bit. Yeah, this was a pretty fun screen, or stream, I should say. Lots of action, bots invading the stream, more new faces joining the stream as well, which was nice to see. So this was a really good, relaxing learning experience. I just don't know why the chat on this program I use, Restream, it's showing the title of the previous stream about Gothic 2, because that's obviously not what we're doing now. It's very nice, learned a bunch about VRF and MPL. Trust me, there's so much more to show you about MPLS and all its uses. There's so many uses. It's such a powerful tool. It's a plugin on OBS. Even though I've gone onto Twitch and it shows that the title updated. Let me just maybe make sure. But it's a plugin on OBS. It's still showing the chat because I'm using Restream to stream to both YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I know Twitch used to be a bit funny when it came to having multiple streams, but they've allowed it now. They've been like, it's fine. You're allowed to, stream on YouTube at the same time. I think they're just saying you shouldn't take any viewers away from Twitch, or if you're on another platform, you need to engage with the Twitch community as well, not just ignore them. And I think I do engage with both because I'm chatting to people on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So it's nice to have two platforms to stream to. Restream's pretty cool. VRF is not fully implemented. Maybe that's my issue, that VRF is not fully implemented on V7. Something I can test. I might just do like a fully meshed. I don't even need to do a full mesh. I could just mesh PE1 with PE3 and see what the outcome is if I'm learning those routes. No, I'm nothing. On Twitch scale, I'm like a little drop, I think. I'm getting like 3 or 2 viewers on Twitch at the moment at any time. And I definitely don't pass any of their bars or anything. But I want to have the stream available in multiple places because I know some people like Twitch and other people like YouTube. All right. Yeah, I hate YouTube live stream chat. Yeah, the Twitch live stream is a little bit more, I think, user friendly. All right, but I think that's where I'm going to call it, guys. I'm going to actually sign off now. I had a nice chat with all of you. And I'll definitely, we'll have another lab stream on Monday. And then Fridays again, gaming stream, just chilling, relaxing. And I want to see if I can maybe pump out a few videos, like normal YouTube videos on Wednesdays or something. I might not make videos like every week because it's very time consuming. There's a lot that goes into making videos. Besides just recording this stuff, I think a lot of the issues for me is editing, and I don't want to pay like an editor or something. I really want to do all my stuff on my own. I don't want to that might be fun having a video editing stream, but yeah, I like doing the stuff myself. I don't want to like hire editors or sound people or anything. It's more, I kind of feel like I don't want to lose control of things sometimes. Things like that I should have direct control over. All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna end off the stream now. I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and I'll catch you guys in another stream. See you soon.